Welcome back to Radio Noir. This is Pat Doherty here, and yeah, I gotta say I had a pretty amazing day. We did the Ben Cook Phelps CD release at the Hideaway Studios, and man, it's pretty hard not to feel cool when you're playing in that room. I mean, so many great artists have worked there and cut great records. A lot of Twin Cities favorites: Atmosphere, Brother Ali, the Doomtree Crew. I think even Snoop Dogg did some stuff there. Not sure about that, but yeah, who knows. But anyway, Ben, huge thanks for inviting us out there, and I really appreciate that you thought of us for that moment. So it was a great time, and all you listeners out there, Ben Cook Phelps and you, go check it out. Okay. Now it's gonna get a little heavy. In light of this Osama Bin Laden news, and I'm completely aware that a lot of musicians and comedians and media personalities of either great or minuscule fame try to claim to be socio-political experts. I mean, we all have our opinions, but this is not going to be a place where I try to even entertain the notion that my opinion has this great weight or profound value. But since I've been doing this show from college radio to pirate radio to podcasting, I feel that it's been this calming ritual talking to this tiny universe of listeners I've amassed over the years, and I think here is as good as any to talk something out and maybe get something off my chest. Let me start by stating the obvious, that of course I do not condone anything that man did, nor should anyone, because it is so easy to tear down, it's so easy to destroy. It takes very little effort, and I've always been a firm believer in judging someone on what they create and not what they destroy. I don't have a lot of respect for people who, even trash art for the sake of trashing it or getting a lot of blog page views. It's so easy to do, and it's so easy to just snuff something out or harshly criticize something that took so much time and love to build. And we all know 9/11 was a tragedy. And yes, I feel that his capture and eventual killing was bound to happen and probably necessary for this country to move forward. I wish this event will magically end this wars that have devastated not only American families, American citizens, the country's image itself, but citizens of countries all over the world. So many people have died. And I wish this could end all that right now, but I don't think it will. Especially in recent events with all this birther nonsense and how the media covers things. There's going to be fanaticism about this. I guess what I'm trying to say, what I saw and how the media covered this event, yes, it's very easy to feel good, and the word justice has been thrown around, but I kind of got a little sick to my stomach watching the media handle this, and I know by everybody's standards, this man was considered evil, and in my opinion, he was. But when does it ever become okay to celebrate any man's death? And I gotta say, watching the reaction to the 24-hour news networks, watching their reaction, we only killed a man here, and this is just treating the symptom. It's not the cure. I think we got a long way to go. We need to kill an idea, not a man. We need to kill all this fear and xenophobia and racism and anti-religious statements on both the spiritual and secular sides of the playing field. That's what's perpetuating this war on terror. It's not even a tangible enemy. It's a whole it's a whole nother ball of wax. I hope that this actually flicks the light switch and everything can be okay, but in my short 20-something years, I'm not going to claim to be a person with a monopoly on truth, because no one is, and I'm not going to say I have any answers. I do believe it's a good day for America, but I also understand that it's always a lot more complicated than that. Okay. I realized that was a little long, and hey, I'm a talker, and this is a pretty stream of conscious program, and I really needed to get that out of me. But this week, I got a chance to speak with Bill Mike, and I love talking to this guy. He's been on the program probably more than any other guest, dating back to the KOG days, like 4 years ago. But he does great stuff in the community. He's an amazing musician, wickedly intelligent, and just a fun person to be around. And I've always considered him like a musical mentor to me. I've looked up to him ever since I met him. And he's having some really good success with his latest project, The Rock Camp for Dads, which got an awesome article and a lot of great press, actually. But check out this program. It's awesome. And if you are a dad looking to rock out, set yourself free. Do people still say stuff like that? I'm a dork. But if you're in that situation, give Mr. Bill Mike a call. Check out Rock Camp for Dads. Here's Bill Mike. I never know how to start these things.
That's how you should start.
Yeah, there we go. All right, well, we got Bill Mike in the studio today. And how many? You have like so many stage names that like I met you as Bill Mike. What do you actually go by in real life?
If we were sitting around with family dinner eating pasta together.
Yeah.
Mike.
Mike?
Yeah. My real name is William Michael.
Yeah.
And I'll keep this really short. Father was William. Grandfather was William. Nickname became Mike because of that reason. But when I moved here to Minneapolis in the late 90s, I I was in a band called Love Cars.
Yeah, yeah.
And two wives of two of the members just started calling me Bill Mike.
Yeah,
and I fought it because I was never called Bill.
Yeah,
but
Bill,
after a year, I just said, "Fine, you win," and I was one with it. And I thought, well, it's kind of funny and kind of fun the way they were saying it.
Yeah.
It was like, "Hey, Bill Mike," it was like
Yeah.
totally animated. So I just rolled with it. So that's how that came about.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's how long did you play with Love Cars? I always knew because I interned with Matthew Faust at Audiophile for when I was undergrad.
It was I did their first recording as a part-time guest, Chump Lessons, which is fabulous recording. And then just gradually started doing like little guest spots at live shows. Mm-hmm. And then started playing more songs and singing background vocals.
Yeah.
And just sort of got incorporated into the band that way. It was a very brief time, it was about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So
you've played with like pretty much everybody on like the Minnesota wiki. I just found that today. I had no idea Minnesota had its own wiki for music. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I know, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's great. But you're originally from Ohio?
The Natty, as we
call
it.
The
Cincinnati. The Natty. Who else is from Cincinnati? We should go over that.
I don't know. I'm from Philly. I could tell you who's from Philly. I don't think anyone out here is from Philly.
I haven't met many Philadelphia people.
Yeah.
There's Afghan Wigs. We're from Cincinnati. James Brown.
Yeah.
That's huge. Bootsy Collins.
Oh, really? He was from...
Still alive and well. Who's horrible that's from Cincinnati? Let's think about the worst. Oh, Nick Lachey.
Really?
Absolutely. And just how much time do I have packed? Because I'm pressed up.
As much as you want.
Okay. So my father worked downtown Cincinnati. Yeah. This is a good story, so nobody turn off right now. And I was over in Cincinnati on a break, and this is about a year and a half ago. And Nick Lachey comes on the TV, and my dad goes, "Oh, little Nicky." And I'm like, "What? Yeah. What do you?" My dad's 78. All right.
Yeah.
I go, "Dad, do you know Nick Lachey? Is it Lachey, right?"
I that's my best guess.
Lachey, I don't know. Okay. So he goes, "Little Nicky," and he goes, "Oh, I used to babysit little Nicky." I'm like, holy.
Yeah, you can say. Yeah,
oh, okay.
Why not?
I was like, holy shit, you're kidding me. It turns out that the office receptionist in my dad's company where he worked was the mom of Nick.
No way.
And Nick would come in the office all the time because she watched him during time. So my dad would play with him and just like hang out with him. And so all the office people knew little Nicky. And so, umpteen years later, I have no idea that my dad hung out with
Nick Lachey.
Yeah. In the same high school, Carmen Electra. There you go.
What?
Yes. Princeton High School, Cincinnati.
Did you go to Princeton High School?
No. But yeah, those are kind of the pop stars that came from Ohio.
Nice.
Carmen and Nick, man. That's awesome.
Well, what brought you to the cities? Because I know you've been like all over the country at one point, like doing, like weren't you on the West Coast for a while?
I was. I lived out west in Los Angeles for 5 years, and I was definitely doing the music thing. And just through some previous experience, I had some tech experience, and I got.
Okay.
I met a gentleman from Chicago area who was running sort of a tech business. It was kind of a really unique roadie for hire, all-encompassing business. And he was the drummer for the band Chicago. And he retired, and his name was Michael Murphy. Anyway, he got me into the tech business, and I started just by accident kind of teching for the world's worst, most popular. It's another pop theme in this interview. My first gig was like going to a sound stage and assisting Rod Stewart.
Really?
Yeah, it was horrible.
Really?
I'll tell you what. His his name was Booby, and Booby was in like a Scottish hardcore, like a real roadie. I was a musician doing tech business,
Getting a gig. Yeah.
getting a gig to pay for rent, and having wonderful, crazy, funny life experiences. But anyway, Booby was like a road dog, like 30 years,
Yeah.
and his thing was, hey, William, toot, toot. He kept saying toot, and I'm like, what is toot? And this is Coke. So it's like Booby would my first day, like really roading, was watching Booby, the roadie, do lines of cocaine, assisting Rod Stewart. So I became like the assistant
I suppose if
to the main roadies. Yeah.
I suppose if you're stuck in that gig, you're bound to do something of that nature to get out, so to speak.
So those are the real hardcore guys, the guys that do it for life. Love it. They're really good at what they do, but it's 3 hours of sleeping. I mean, it's a grueling, crazy life, but they love it. So, and then I got really good experiences like that in terms of deathbed stories.
Really?
Yeah, and then met a lot of people from Minnesota out there, and moved back with a few people. Just after 5 years, it's more of a synthetic environment out there, and I was kind of getting away from my original purpose, which was playing guitar and writing songs. So,
is that where you met Dave King? Or?
We did. We were in a band together out there called Gosh, and we put in about 2 years.
Yeah.
And then we just decided it was kind of cool synchronicity. There's a lot of natural disasters happen out there for some reason.
Yeah.
And we went through some earthquake experiences. Those were kind of not uplifting.
Yeah.
So a year after that, we kind of decided to split as a camp and came back here, and then started doing music in his hometown, and then I became a Minnesotan.
Wow. So you've been here ever since from that point, right?
Yeah, I did move back to Ohio because I was extremely freaked out by my first winter here, and I sound like such a wuss, but it really, really threw me for a loop because I don't play hockey. Yeah, I don't ice fish. I don't ski. I don't ice skate.
Yeah, I didn't do any of those things.
So
I still don't really. I mean, I remember the first winter I was out here, like all, the people I went to school with who coincidentally are actually still in my band today, but they were like, let's take Philadelphia ice skating. Let's watch them fall down a bunch. And much to their dismay, like I didn't really fall. I used to be a skate rat back in high school, so I mean I know it's not the same thing, but I would say I have a good enough like sense of balance to not be an idiot. But like ice skating's still not like a skill I would say I'm proficient at.
Right.
But where was I even going? No, the first winter for me did not actually freak me out that much.
Okay.
I always had a high tolerance for cold, but I would say
admirable.
The third winter here, it didn't freak me out as much as just wear me down. It was one of those record ones where like there were times where it was like -50 with the wind chill, and that was one of those things where I just thought in my head, I don't know how much I can do this.
Right. And I think the East Coast, because of just the weather patterns, I know what I'm talking about.
They're constantly changing, but for the most part, out here it's just snow, and over there it's just gray forever in the winter.
But isn't your winter a month shorter, most likely? End of March, kind of spring.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. It's just prolonged here, which is always good for some sort of form of creativity by all, but in general, like you said, just like this winter, I think even the diehards got wore down. That's what.
This was one of those winters where I was sitting around just going, "Am I becoming a shut-in?" And then I would go outside. And I don't want to be outside right now, so I'd come in, and this is actually
you got Arrested Development.
Yeah.
When I walked in, he was watching Arrested Development. Reruns. I like it.
Yeah.
So that's what you do.
That's what I usually write songs. This is how the podcast got started. Really, we used to do it You used to come on. I think you've come on this show more
Augsburg,
than
yeah.
anyone officially. Now that you're here, well, back in the KOG days, you came on like 3 times,
I think so.
and with the international man of mystery known as Gary Warnian.
Yeah. The thing about Gary's a Tapa player, and he plays for a cool jazz band called Jello Slave. Is if you ever talk to him about Penn and Teller, because he was with Penn and Teller as their assistant.
Yeah.
During their first 2 years. Do we ever talk about that?
Yeah, we talked about it after one session. He was saying Teller's a lot more talkative than you think.
Absolutely.
And they're both
completely bizarre,
but
individuals.
Highly intellectual.
Highly intellectual. Perfect career for them because they would not fit into any other existence on the planet. They found their life niche, so that's cool. The other thing about Gary, did you know that his wife Marina is part of the Hammond organ family?
Really?
And he probably wouldn't want me telling that. There's no money left. Don't even worry about it. So don't think that. Yeah. But yeah, the Hammond B3 organ, which is a crucial part of what you and I do, is a musical instrument that's been around forever. That is crucial to music's existence, especially North American roots music. He has tons of Hammond stories about Mr. Hammond, and that he was a clock inventor, and he had like dozens of different patents, and the organ was just fun. That was like his weekend thing for fun. Hobby. Absolutely. And he met Mr. Leslie and the Leslie speaker. And they didn't really kind of totally gel. I mean, I'm just going off Gary's things. But anyway, Gary's fascinating because he has tons of Hammond organ stories.
That guy just has tons of stories.
He does. He's like one of the original punk rockers. You know, he grew up in that late 70s. He hit it right away, and he lived that real punk rock.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
I remember the one story when we were, I think it might have been the last session you did at KOG. You guys were loading out, and you were telling me a story of how you were hanging out with Gary about like some show, but he also was involved in this business venture with beads or something.
Yeah, if you can see him at the state fair in the sort of what's the bead area? It's way back by the creepy part. Like
there's still parts of the state fair I have not.
The haunted part.
Oh, really?
It's where the abandoned train is, where you can go through and see the history.
Oh, yeah.
That village thing.
Yeah, that part is a little off-putting.
It's super.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's creepy carnival vibe.
But you were telling, he's like, wow. So in my mind, I'm thinking, man, this guy he does everything, but he's so like he's really reserved and quiet, and then he comes back from his car because he was loading his drum, and he said, well, I gotta get going. I'm gonna go back to Lake House and test the new speedboat, and then you stop what you're saying, just go, wait, you have a speedboat? Yeah, it's new. Why didn't you?
I know. It's funny. The quiet, reserved folks always have the stories. And they just are very content with who they are
because they have the stories because they're the only ones listening.
Yeah, exactly.
And observing everyone else is talking. But I'm way too guilty of that. So what? Let's talk about your new group, Salty. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Salty, just with 2 E's. It started with the cool thing about the Twin Cities that doesn't really exist in a lot of cities, as Pat knows, is there's a great improvising music scene, or an improv scene, and what that does, I think the improvisation scene connects a lot of people doing many genres of music, whether it be for their living or for their pleasure. It keeps everybody really fresh.
Yeah.
So if you have a good improvising scene, that means it could be people that are well known in the folk scene, or well known in the traditional jazz scene, or even the pop scene.
Yeah.
That if you feel a little rusty, or if you feel a little out of touch with your instrument, you can get in touch with this network of people and just do what you're supposed to do in music, is spontaneously create and connect with that deep music power. But it's a pretty organized scene here, and that's how that band started. We started jamming at the Rogue Buddha Valley, good Lord, the Rogue Buddha Gallery. And
that's
I don't know where that came from.
That's going to happen when Chris Koza reaches enlightenment. It's going to be Rogue Buddha Valley.
Classic. Anyway, that's how it spawned. But yeah, it's Carnage, and Carnage is a lot of people obviously know who he is, but he's a fabulous MC and beatboxer who is the godfather of hip hop in Minneapolis, in my opinion. And Jacqueline Olton, who is a cellist, fine cellist, and Jello Slave, and myself. And we tried. The thing that's cool is all of us, subconsciously, covertly like metal. Like Carnage, believe it, he's in the hip hop world, but he's like he loves metal.
Yeah.
And Jacqueline, is this fabulous, classically trained, cellist with this immense background and likes rock and roll, man.
Yeah.
And I'm just a grit from Ohio, you know what I mean? Truly, I'm a very simple man of simple means, and it's like I come from Black Oak, Arkansas, and Blackfoot and Skinner, and you know what I mean? I mean, truly. So it's like I love rock, man, and so I think we love just powerful, hard rock and roll.
Yeah.
And somehow we get to release some of that in Salty. So believe me, that's the common bond, is intensity.
Yeah.
Without sounding too pretentious, it's like, it's that hard rock intensity of just like digging in your instrument. But it's not metal, it comes out, and we'd have a lot of groove tunes and classical themes, and definitely some really beautiful music too. But we like the rock.
Wasn't Michael Larson involved with?
Yeah, he through Carnage, who toured with Idea and Abilities a lot. Michael started. He, originally started out as, "Hey man, can you just master this project?" Because what people don't know is Michael's. God, he could like mix and master.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
I just listened to those recordings of all the records he did with his other bands, and I don't know, man. He had it, and he had all this cool gear too, this more analog gear. Anyway, and then all of a sudden went from mastering to like, boy, he's really molding the things we wanted to do, and he's making it. These are all live recordings, and they were they were great tunes, but recording wise, it was on the fly, so it was super lo-fi. And he started making it. This bigger, better thing, and that was literally a week before he passed away.
Yeah.
So that never finished, but we did have a few fabulous experiences with him in his basement studio, and watching him be a very intense, attentive, hyper musical person. So.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys. Anytime I would see him live, he was always trying to push it and reinvent something, and he always was taking a risk. And it was really interesting to see him live, because I saw Idea a lot, and it was never the same show twice, even though you could pick out songs he would be playing, like all musicians do, but like he would always do something that was different, at least when I saw him. But
absolutely.
And I it's an understatement to say that everyone was shocked when we heard about his passing. But.
Yeah, I mean, it's I wasn't a close friend by any means, but we're all music comrades.
Yeah.
I did one guitar session for him, and he was learning how to play piano. He was taking, I think he was taking lessons from, this older woman, and what I liked about him is beyond real. Again, I'm not saying I was, drinking coffee with him every day.
I wasn't close friends with him, but
just from a professional experience, very driven in terms of knowledge. Wasn't driven in terms of success. He's as real as it gets.
Yeah.
And, at the time, I was probably, good Lord, 12, 15 years a senior or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, this young dude is just pushing the creative envelope. So admired him a lot, and really respected his methodical ways of just being a pure artist.
Yeah. What that's what I really enjoy about the Twin Cities scene is how it doesn't even matter what genre it is. Everyone has this mutual respect of what everyone does. And I think you can see that in a lot of your projects because you definitely blend a lot of genres into your work and a lot of different, flavors, if I can cliche it a little bit. But did you have a classical background or because you have a lot of interesting finger techniques where I'm just like, I don't even know where I would begin to learn how to do that.
Oh, I think a lot of what we do as artists comes from your limitations.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the hands-on finger techniques came from pure laziness of never going to the music store and buying my picks.
Yeah.
That I have very specific picks for my guitar.
Yeah.
And I could only get them at this store, and that store was 12 miles away, and there's no way in hell.
Carved from black ivory.
Yeah.
A specific
like,
rhino.
What am I going to do? Am I going to drive 12 miles to get my frippin' picks? No.
Yeah.
So a lot of that, I think a lot of styles come from limitation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, my original guitar teacher was this dude from Ohio, just like me. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, he was into Japanese classical music.
Okay.
And he played with all Japanese classical musicians in southern Ohio and made all these records. So he was this freaky dude named Keith Bowers, and he, just like, talk about an 80s looking California guy. You know what I mean? Really trippy dude. And, but loved to rock too. So he taught me, the postures and, where to hold your hand. So we did do classical guitar techniques. And I really, I grew up, my first guitar was a classical guitar. So that's what I played on. And I just love the sound of a nylon string classical guitar. I just think it's just angelic and fragile. But I am by no means, I'm not a disciplined person, and I have ADD. Yeah. So there's no, I have stigmatisms in my eyes. So being a classical musician is out the door.
Yeah.
But I love the sound. But I like the Mediterranean flamenco guitars. I love that as well.
Yeah, I can definitely hear that on a lot of and for all you listeners, this is about to get really geeky, but from
gear talk. Let's do it.
Yeah, because when I listen to your records, some of the when you got modal on some of the solos, I was just like, oh, that's a such and such scale. I'm not okay. I'm dumbing it down just so I don't so people don't X out the window. But I was really just, I guess, hooked from that because it on the heart of it, you had the rock and you had all, but it was a pop song that you would
absolutely,
infuse with all these different world flavors and world scalar motions. But at the heart of it, you had the rock, you had the big, Steve Gould is
he's
banging,
amazing,
and then
yeah.
Chris Morrissey who
I just saw. He was in town. Is
he back now, or is it?
No,
okay.
His sister had twins.
Oh, okay.
And he came back, and Chris is touring with Ben Queller.
Okay,
he's doing that part time, and then he's doing his jazz thing. And
is he still
Brooklyn?
in New York?
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
He's in Brooklyn, and he's cool. He's great, and he's still doing a lot of music. And then I'm actually going to jam with Steve Gould.
Nice.
On Wednesday for the first time in 2 years. So,
speaking of, this is an aside, but speaking of really, really good bassists,
yes.
I thought this was really funny. When I was an undergrad, my advisor that I would have to speak to every semester in his office one-on-one, I actually had a couple classes with him, was Anthony Cox.
Oh, yeah.
And for 2 semesters, I had no idea you guys knew each other until
the most unassuming man on the planet and the one with the richest jazz history. Like he's the jazz guy to ever come out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
In his list of tours, credentials, we're talking heavyweight. We're talking like connection to what we know jazz is.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing.
Like global.
Oh yeah,
like Taj Mahal. What'd you do over the weekend? We're at his house barbecuing and drinking. He loves like shitty 3-2 beer like me, and we're just like drinking. I don't know, Natural Light or something like that.
Oh, you're kidding me!
No, we love it, and we're just throwing shit in the fire. I go, "Where were you?" "Oh, I just got back from Europe with Taj Mahal and Jack Bruce," and I'm just like. And nobody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
His first gig was playing with the legendary Stan Getz. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's his first touring gig. And at the time, you gotta realize Stan Getz was like, like a popular global pop artist almost.
Yeah.
Like, but although he was a hardcore jazz man, but just cool, weird stories. He was in the New York Miles Davis, East Village, Harlem. You know what I mean? It's like everything you think of as New York jazz and all of the players of that. He caught that win and still is involved heavily with, like another
He's been
thing.
touring Asia, Europe, like America.
Yeah.
He's in
a band with William Calhoun from Living Colour, and it's like all this, and you just catch him at home, man. He just had heart valve surgery.
Really?
So he's been recovering for 2 months. So he's doing really, really well. And that was really scary, but I just saw him last week. He dropped in. Anthony Cox, if you can check that out, he is I think the world's greatest upright bass player. Not that I know a ton about that instrument, but
it's amazing.
I think he is.
The amount of time, because he's also like the nicest guy like you'll ever meet, and he's pretty soft spoken too. But when you get to know, because like a lot of people, when you have a class with him, it's just like he's the professor, and like students just watch. But like as someone who got to like actually speak with him one on one, like when you really he is just a wealth of all kinds of information.
Yeah, he's the photographic memory guy.
Yeah, not just music. Like he'll talk about a book and then be like, yeah, this thing, and then he would photocopy pages of books. Like, yeah, this is the page I was talking about, and I was just like, oh my god, like I still have photocopied pages of just like books we would talk about. But the funny thing is, semester after semester of like having class and him being my advisor, I've still never seen him play bass live other than videos.
Right.
And hearing him on audio recording. I've yet to see him play live, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, I call it command of the instrument, and I've never seen an upright bass player, which playing in a real upright or acoustic jazz bass is physically the most demanding thing one could ever do on any instrument.
Yeah.
And I've never seen such physical command, and then have somebody, because some people are technical and choppy, and some people really dig that and are kind of turned on by that. But, personally, you got to have a song, you got to have a melody, you got to emote, and so he had a good combination of both creative sensibility, hyper creative sensibility, and just this technique that was. It's like watching somebody build a skyscraper, just tough, just badass.
And to even bring the Twin Cities back to how it's such a community. He gave lessons to the bassist in my band, Joe.
Nice.
And then, and now I'm not sure if Joe's still taking lessons from Adam Linz, but
Adam's amazing. Yeah. Adam has the same command. Like he's in the same mentality of being in a cool Fat Kid Wednesdays, like the hippest most street
Oh,
jazz
man.
band.
They are my
street.
favorite jazz band in the cities. They've always have been.
And there's the creative thing, and then, when you talk to him about his instrument, he knows everything.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about Adam, he knows everything about every pop band, every dance band, every Euro techno band.
Yeah.
That's another dude, very similar to Anthony, that they have this plethora of knowledge about everything. Yeah, it's cool.
He also has a great sense of humor too. That's one thing.
As you see his Facebook posts about 80s films every day. What'd you do this weekend? Crocodile Dundee 2, dude.
Yeah.
He analyzed Crocodile Dundee 2.
Yeah, and that's something me and my band are really into. Like Tim, our cellist, like he is like the on the forefront of this. We would, like, when we were in college, all we would do in a weekend is just like we would never go out. Like we would just stay in our dorm and watch like Big Trouble in Little China.
Right.
And then the film we really got into is Escape from New York.
Oh,
which is
absolutely.
When you played my CD release. When we came out to it with the lights all dark, that was the Escape from New York theme, which Joe, for his like senior project, arranged like a version of Escape from New York with Adam
guys are
Wynn's
nerds,
playing. Yeah,
man.
we are ridiculous nerds, but
Passionate.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
I agree. I agree, man.
So what's next for you? What do you?
Well, here's the interesting thing: as I mature, you realize that music is transient. So it's like I haven't been really in the music scene for a year because I've been doing these cool rock camps for adults.
Yeah.
And I just I stumbled into that as sort of, I was teaching a few private students and I was really gigging at the time, like as, tons of side work and my own band. And I was like, man, these guys need a gig, man. They need that zest of a live group experience. There's nothing cooler, in my opinion. I always a good gig is like winning the Super Bowl, and you can't describe the feeling to people unless you're in it. It's like it keeps you going. One good gig can keep you going emotionally for a month.
Yeah.
So, and these guys were in their 40s and 50s, and the kids were moving away to college, and I wasn't trying to be a martyr by any means, but I'm like, earnestly, it's like, hey man, let's get together. And so we started doing like the history of music, decade by decade. We started with, the 1920s, and, we got into Lead Belly and, Robert Johnson and all the Delta Blues, and moved into rock and roll. And then I booked them like this little outdoor festival. And they were so serious. I'm like, I can't describe to you, like, they weren't effing around, man. They're like, we're going to nail this gig, man. So they went for it. And it just kind of took off, and I started just doing, like, camps, putting the guys together. Started out with, 5 dudes 1 month, and then 10 guys would call me, and I started booking them gigs. It was very casual. And, everybody around me is like, this is so cool, man. There's nothing for adults, over 40 doing rock and roll. And I'm like, really? There isn't?
Why not?
Why not? So I started kind of slowly. I was getting a lot of fulfillment out of it, so I started kind of weeding out my sideman guitar work, which was really great. But I've been doing that for 15 years, So I started putting a lot of energy in this, and saw a lot of positive results. And it is what it is. It's it's guys that really, really love music. Like it's. The passion, I can't tell you. It's really sparks me, because it's like, Pat, when you started music, you were how old?
Oh gosh,
like when you were cognizant.
Like 8.
Okay,
maybe,
so you were young.
Yeah,
but you remember your first everything, right?
Yeah.
Your first record, your first instrument.
Yeah.
Your first band practice, your first band, your first gig, and those feelings are what you try to tap into, even as an adult, because those were your purest moments of knowing that you're meant to do this.
Yeah.
So these guys have that essence. So I was just rolling with these camps, and now it's just like, it's beyond my control. It's I am a mere secretary at this point, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of activity with that. So I've been focusing a lot of energy on those. And then doing Salty, and now Salty's serious now. Mm-hmm. It's less of a jam. And then, but I definitely taken, you know, a year and a half off from my rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I miss rock music, man. But, you know, I'm doing it with the camps, but I mean, like, writing.
Yeah.
Like, writing original rock and roll compositions and executing them.
Nice.
Is, you know, that's the essence of half of what I am, so, as a musician, so. We're getting back to it. We'll see what kind of jams happen.
Nice.
So.
Any, is there any possibility of Gould and Morrissey jamming with you?
You know,
or?
Everything in life, you know, everything, these natural progressions, this, Chris is very much kind of leading his own two experiences out east. And, you know, you just got to go with your gut impulses on how much, you can only expend so much energy. Mm-hmm. You only have so much time. But I will be getting together with Steve Gould. And Steve Gould, for those of you who don't know, is I think one of the top rock and roll drummers of all time, actually.
He's a monster.
Yeah, he's a monster. And I'm getting together with he and Ian Allison, who's a cool groove bass player. Chris, you know, it's just whenever, who knows? You know, everybody that moves away that's from Minneapolis eventually comes back. That's what I noticed.
Well,
you know, you can move away for a while, but they all come back, man.
Yeah, that's what people keep saying about the Philadelphia area. But who knows? I'm going to be here for a while. But there are a lot of transplants in the Twin Cities too, like people who grew up elsewhere coming.
Yeah, and I think that's crucial because the time I landed here to now, it's totally different. It was definitely a little bit more, you know, less international. That sounds really awful to say. But you're right. There are more people moving here because of just various things. The funny thing I find is spouses. So a lot of people move here simply because they got married to a Minnesotan.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of spousal movement here, like Brian Setzer.
So that's why he's here.
Oh, yeah, he married a Northeast woman. Huh. So there's lots of, or Hazelton, that's the other thing, man. There's lots of transient rock and rollers from the what do we call that? I don't want to say addiction recovery centers, but that's kind of what it is. Like I mentioned Afghan Wigs before. It's like my neighbor's Rick from the Afghan Wigs, and you know, like he came through here to get well, and they did. So there's that. I mean, and it's also Minnesota's also the land of grants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you have lots of people.
I apply every year. Yeah. You might as well.
I gave up. I totally gave up. I wish you the best. It's a shitload of work, man.
It is.
Wow.
But,
you know what sucks about that? And see, so this is no reflection upon Pac because he's a fabulous musician and a good guy, but this is all on me. So the bummer about the grant thing, and it's going to shoot me in the foot. Are you okay with me saying this?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. The hard part, and I'm not going to say any specifics, is when you find out somebody got a grant and you go to their show, and it is the artiest, most, you know, it's the weirdest, artiest, crappiest thing you've ever seen. There's 6 people in the audience, and they got 10 grand to put this on. And you're like, how, like, what the, you know, that's challenging. And that happens. That happens.
That's the natural human nature of things. Because, like, I myself, like, you listen to the radio and then, like, you hear someone, like, you played a show with 3 years ago and you're like, what him? And then you're like, you know, that's not how it works. Like,
we are all in charge of our own destiny.
Yeah, and it's not a competition. I mean, if you work hard enough and you produce good enough art, you know, you're going to find, you know, a place for yourself.
Yes, that's true. It's that route is carving out your own versus relying on others. You really form your own your music identity, your music company, your role. But yeah, it's hard to see shitty shitty artists get grants, man. That happens.
But like the jealousy just gets you nowhere because like that's the worst part about it. Because like when you work so hard, especially me, is just this young.
Yeah, you're 24/7, dude.
Yeah, like young, hungry, like always like. Oh, why not yet? Now? Is it now? Can we go? Can we? And it's just you kind of have to keep going and going and going. And
right, it's a very social thing too. It's like I love my close knit musician pals in town.
Oh yeah, some of my best friends.
But I can't schmooze, man. I can't keep that thing going. And a lot of people, you got to be in. It's a different social network.
Yeah, and I've definitely noticed like pretty much all my friends in the cities have become just the musicians we regularly gig with,
right.
Which is kind of natural, but at the same time, like everybody's friends, if not friends, acquaintances, pleasurable acquaintances.
Right. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you're I'm just saying I'm old as shit. So you're this young musician, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what I found is, Minneapolis. What I learned is that Minneapolis, the 80s, the Twin Cities owned music globally.
Yeah, the Minneapolis sound.
Correct. Not only from an artist perspective, but in many genres of music and the business or commerce part of it. Mm-hmm. So here you are, a young musician. You went to Augsburg, McNally. Now you're doing your thing. You're a transplant. So I think you have a different objective. You're not in the bubble.
Yeah.
Okay? So you have an objective perspective. What, as a young business person too, what can Twin Cities do to connect to the globe? Because objectively, this is true, and I'm sorry if you're from the Twin Cities, this is just a fact. People think we're up in the middle of nowhere. So there is no, versus a Chicago, you're streamlined Midwest, and those highways you can get East Coast pretty quick.
Yeah.
Or West Coast is far, but
take 80 all the way through Ohio and Indiana. Yeah,
but we are up here, so we are more of a Canadian based. It's like Montreal. It's like this gorgeous, creative, artistic, cultural town. But from a global perspective, how are we going to get back to being global dominant? I mean, that decade, man. That was pre-Seattle, and Seattle took over for a while.
It was also pre-internet. Mm-hmm. And I think I have a theory. The reason something like the Beatles will never happen again is not because the musical talent isn't there. Mm-hmm. It's because at the time you only had so many, like a limited way of getting your art. And I'm not saying the Beatles weren't amazing, because they were, but like, you had radio and then television, but they were all over that. Mm-hmm. And now we have the internet, which you can't monopolize like that.
Right.
Which is going to make it harder for something that... nothing will ever be universal, but it's going to make it harder to have that, near universal band again. Because with the internet, people are allowed to be themselves more, not get spoon-fed from top 40 radio all the time. They don't have to listen to the radio. I don't like this. They can go find it.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is not going to connect. This argument is not going to connect, but I think the reason the Twin Cities isn't viewed as like an Austin or a Portland is not because it's not as good. It's because there isn't a Minneapolis sound anymore. When you come here, you have
good point.
Badass folk musicians, you have badass jazz musicians, and but there isn't a certain type of band where it's just like, this is what's going on in Minneapolis. When you get here, it's just like, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on. I mean, like, we have Atmosphere, Doomtree, but we also have, what Dave King is doing, and that's amazing. And we also have people like Jeremy Messersmith and Chris Koza writing amazing songs. And because of that rich diversity, I think from a business standpoint, they don't want to take the time to market it. But we have all this amazing stuff going on here, but it doesn't fit in that convenient one little package that you can say, this is going on in Minneapolis. And frankly, I don't want it to, because I really enjoy everything going on and how it plays off on each other, and everyone works together. And more in the music industry, I would say the Venn diagram of one circle's art, one circle's entertainment, those circles are moving further and further away from each other. And they do meet in the middle at some points, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with music just being pure entertainment. And there's also nothing wrong with music being art for art's sake, because sometimes they meet in the middle. And, that's what the landscape looks like. I don't know what more to say. But I think I'll end with that. So yeah, well, I'd like to thank you for coming. This was always a lot of fun. We always get way ahead of ourselves in the conversation.
Yeah.
But it was great to talk to you.
Likewise, Pat. Thanks for having me.
Sure. And salty.
Salty.
Yeah.
Carnage, Jacqueline Alton, and myself will be at Red Stag Sunday, May Day.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous May Day. Please go to Powderhorn and experience the parade.
Yeah.
And then let's see, we're going to be at the Living Green Expo on Saturday. I think it's the following Saturday, 7th.
Well,
should be cool.
Thank you for coming, and all you listeners, check that out. Michael.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Okay, we'll see ya. Thanks.
All right, there it is. Always a great time when I get together with Bill Mike. In fact, we actually ended up talking for an hour and a half after we stopped recording. Anyway, it's time for shameless plugs. Everyone loves shameless plug time. May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. It's the start of our Nomad mini-series. It's Tim Binger's birthday. We got a great bill lined up for that show. We got the Broken Bicycles, Dave Afdal, and Lucy Michelle. So, no cover. Come check it out. I know you want to do something crazy and rowdy on Cinco de Mayo. I promise we'll deliver. But I'm going to thank Bill Mike for coming on the show. And once again, all you listeners out there, please keep it